The night was quiet, but something terrible was approaching. Beneath the ancient olive trees of Gethsemane, Jesus stood in silence. His disciples were nearby, sleeping beneath the darkness of the night. But Jesus was awake. He knew what was coming. He knew that one of his own would lead his enemies to him. Then, through the darkness, torches appeared. One, then another, then hundreds of flames, moving slowly between the trees. The sound of footsteps grew louder. Armor, weapons, the movement of soldiers, and at the front of them was Judas. Not a stranger, not an enemy, but a disciple. A man who had walked beside Jesus. A man who had heard his teachings. A man who had witnessed his miracles. And now, he was leading them to him. Judas walked closer. His face was tense. His eyes avoided the eyes of Jesus. But Jesus looked directly at him. For a moment, everything became silent. Judas stepped forward, closer and closer. Jesus did not move. He knew. He knew why Judas had come. Judas reached out and touched Jesus. Then he kissed him. A kiss, the sign of friendship, the sign of love, the sign of trust, had become the sign of betrayal. Jesus looked at Judas. There was no hatred in his eyes, no anger, only sorrow. And Jesus said, "Friend, why have you come?" Judas could not answer. He slowly pulled away and could not look into the eyes of the one he had betrayed. Then the soldiers moved forward. Weapons were drawn. The disciples became afraid. Peter reached for his sword. "Lord, should we strike?" But Jesus raised his hand. "No more." Jesus looked toward the soldiers. "Whom are you looking for?" They answered, "Jesus of Nazareth." Jesus stepped forward. "I am he." And the soldiers came for him. But Jesus did not run. He did not fight. He did not call down heaven. He willingly surrendered himself, because he knew this was the path he had chosen. Judas stood behind the soldiers, watching, silent, his face filled with guilt. Jesus was being bound, and Judas could only watch. Jesus had every opportunity to escape, but he did not. He knew the kiss was coming, and still he allowed Judas to come close. The soldiers began leading Jesus away through the olive trees. The torches slowly disappeared into the darkness. Judas remained behind, alone. He looked down at his hands, the hands that had betrayed his master. And perhaps the greatest tragedy of that night was not simply that Jesus was betrayed. It was that the man who betrayed him had once walked beside him. Judas gave Jesus a kiss, but Jesus answered betrayal with love. Sometimes the deepest wounds come from the closest hands. Sometimes the person standing beside you is the one who will walk away from you. But even in the darkest betrayal, Christ remained love. Even when he was betrayed, he loved. Even when he was rejected, he forgave. Even when darkness surrounded him, he continued walking toward the cross. The kiss of Judas became the beginning of the journey to Calvary, and the one who was betrayed would become the Savior of the world.